Afternoon, guys. So I know it's quite late in the afternoon of the second day, so I just want to keep everyone on their toes and ask a few of you a really simple question. Let me start with Annie. Annie, how do you feel when you look at this?
It's what's cool, it's not quite mesmerized.
Cool. Andy?
Excited.
There we go. Taz?
It's quite bright.
Yeah, true. Now, one more question, I promise. How do you guys, the three of you, feel when you look at this? Andy?
Bored.
There we go. Thought so. Now you see, what about I told you guys that these two images actually represented the same type of mathematics, just in different forms, but as you all just saw, had very different reactions, and it's these contrasting reactions that me, a maths nerd, wants to talk about today. You see, I've been a maths nerd my entire life. In high school, when my friends were de-stressing through going on runs like Nicole or writing in journals, I was actually doing extra math papers, and that's shamefully not a lie. Even today, most of my class peers know me for my love for Excel pivot tables and data. However, I'm a maths nerd who loves creativity and the arts and has found herself in the creative industry of marketing and advertising. These two loves of mine seem so polar opposite to so many others, especially those going into the artistic and creative fields. When people think about maths, as just shown, they think numbers, they think boring, or my favorite, they think it's pointless. Or they think of the two words that I've promised in my program never once to mention through this entire talk. And therefore, they hate it or dislike it. But to hate maths is to hate the very basis of what architecture and nature is built on. To hate mathematics is to hate a form of art. Okay, and I know that is a very bold statement. I mean, when last have you heard that maths is described as art? But that is what I'm here to prove. You see, art can be described in a few words, and many more, but here are a few. Creative, inspiring, expressive, and my favorite, art is everywhere. Maths is creative. Maths expresses an immense amount of creative thinking, not just in mathematical pure proofs or theorems, but in creative aspects we come across on a day-to-day basis. Let's look at the creative visual world of marketing, and specifically, typography. Typography is the art or process of setting and arranging types and printing from them, but essentially, typography is the creative combination of letter forms and mathematical proportions that creates online and offline content with style, personality, and taps into the emotions of the reader. Typography is essentially three fundamental dimensions that are creatively proportioned, and that is font size, line height, and line width. These proportions can be measured in many different ways, but one common ratio used is called the golden ratio. This ratio, as its name, has intrigued mathematicians throughout history, as it is directly linked to creative and beautiful proportions. It can be found in creative aspects and beautiful aspects of, I'm getting to it, creative aspects of nature, of architectural history, and has even been said by Leonardo da Vinci, the artist himself, to define objectively and subjectively in some cases, human beauty. And if you guys are still skeptical, let's look at another creative representation, music, very well known. And music, Western music, is made up of 12 notes. And I'm about to go through some fractions, just in case you guys are worried. Let's look at the note middle C, which is essentially a frequency of 262 hertz. If you times this frequency by 2, you get 1 octave higher, high C. Times it by 3 over 2, you get another note, middle G. Times it by 5 over 4, you get middle E. Three simple fractions that, when put together, make harmonious and beautiful sound to the human ear. You see, musicians, just like mathematicians with fractions, can hand select these frequencies and produce sheets of mathematics and beauty to the listener. from the classical Mozart, who was actually an amazing prodigy of a mathematician, to the modern-day Despacito. It is mathematical creativity at its finest. Mathematicians, just like marketers, artists, and musicians, are just storytellers and creatives. Their characters are just numbers and geometries. Let us look at two other words used to describe art. Art is expressive, art is inspiring. And for this example, I'm going to tell a story about a man named Maurits Cornelius Escher. He was born in 1898 in the Netherlands and was the black sheep of a strictly engineering family, as poor Maurits struggled and hated mathematics throughout his high school to the point of failing all his final exams. He carried on pissing off his dad by following his passion for art instead of engineering. And through this art, however, Maurits found an admiration and love for mathematical concepts and started teaching himself mathematics through visual sources and his own intuition. He loved math so much, he began to base his art on it, on mathematical concepts such as symmetry and tessellations. And this art has made Maurits M.C. Escher a most well-known graphic artist even today. And there are many more like him, such as Leonardo da Vinci, as I mentioned before, and many other artists who have been inspired by mathematical expressions to create beautiful art. And finally, my favorite, art or maths is everywhere. As we know, we are surrounded by art on a day-to-day basis. But as we are art, so we are mathematics. Let me take you guys once again back to school. I'm sure all you guys remember this symbol, pi. A symbol we know to measure the area of the circle, as I'm sure you guys are all remembering, having a little bit of PTSD from, and measures, This letter there's a reason why math nerds around the world have a day celebrating this irrational number. And it is because it is found everywhere. It is found in the shapes of rivers. It is found in the ripples of waves of both the ocean and sound. It is found when you're searching for planets in outer space, and is even found when mathematicians are trying to define the state of the universe. But the intrigue of pi does not stop there, as it's not only interesting of where it is found, but what is found in it. You see, pi is a never-ending irrational number that never repeats itself. Therefore, theoretically, any numerical sequence can be found in pi, from your birth date, your death date, your entire DNA sequence, and if translated into alphanumeric, every thought or memory you have ever had or ever will have is in this, it's in pi. And okay, that I might be getting a bit carried away there, as it is just a mathematical theory after all, but a theory nonetheless that just shows how encompassing mathematics can be. So in conclusion, let me go back to the photo and image I showed at the beginning. And I hope that at least some of you today, when you come across something like this, even though you don't understand it, as I definitely do not, you admire the creative and inspiring and expressive form of art that is mathematics. And hey, if you don't and you're still skeptical, at least you know you've been admiring maths this entire time, you just didn't know it. Thank you.